Crossover SUVs have been a dominant force in the automotive market for a while, and nothing suggests this is going to change. Praised for their mix of comfort, practicality, and performance, crossovers are a natural choice for such a broad range of buyers, and for that reason, it doesn't surprise that the offer on the market is so impressive. And in such circumstances, where there are so many amazing models around, we decided to take an extremely hard task to point out the best ones. Stay with us and check out our list of the 10 best crossover SUVs you need in 2024. The CX-50 offers everything you'd expect from a Mazda. It's handsome, a real joy to drive, and pretty luxurious. However, this new generation of Mazda's compact crossover also looks more rugged than its predecessor, while the standard all-wheel drive and 8.6 inches of ground clearance even promise a decent off-road potential. However, we all know why people buy Mazdas. This crossover is much about on-road manners, with sharp handling and driving experience you will hardly get from any other crossover that doesn't have a premium badge. The motorization is pretty good too, with the base 2.5-liter inline-4 putting out 187 horsepower. It's good for around town, but we would definitely go for the optional Turbo 4, which puts out 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. In both cases, a 6-speed automatic is standard. Still, not all things are perfect about this crossover SUV, and that's why it earns only 10th place on our list. First of all, SUVs are meant to be practical, and with 56.3 cubic feet of the total cargo volume, the CX-50 isn't exactly the most spacious model in its class. It's not cheap either, as the price starts at around $31,700. In our humble opinion, the Kia Soul is the best subcompact crossover currently available on the market. It comes with a pretty attractive sticker price of just $21,000. For that money, you get a small and maneuverable vehicle, but also a vehicle with a boxy shape that offers a surprisingly spacious cabin for the segment with lots of passenger and cargo space. Moreover, the list of standard equipment is pretty impressive and includes all kinds of tech, convenience, and safety features you wouldn't normally expect at this price. Under the hood, there's a 2.0-liter inline-4 with 147 horsepower, which comes paired with a CVT gearbox. Of course, this configuration won't wow you, but the Soul's dynamics are good enough for driving around town, especially if you consider its quite engaging handling. On the other hand, it's a shame that you can't opt for all-wheel drive. Subaru's popular compact SUV earns its place on this list for a reason. Standard all-wheel drive, smooth and comfortable ride, lots of safety features, and respectable cargo and passenger space are just some of the things that come to mind, but there is much more. Now, the Forester gets a full redesign, with changes in many aspects that make this SUV even more appealing. The styling is new, just like the interior design, while there are also new tech features. At the same time, the essence of this SUV remains the same, which is something that loyal Forester buyers will appreciate a lot. The only major issue we have with the Forester is the powertrain. Namely, just like the outgoing model, the new one will also be offered with just one engine, the naturally aspirated 2.5-liter flat-4 that puts out 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Unlike the Outback, this crossover SUV, which starts at around $29,000, is not available with the Turbo 4 unit. The recent redesign of Hyundai's well-known crossover brought probably the most dramatic changes in the model's history. Compared to the previous generation's smooth and sleek design, the new one is rather boxy, and it profiles itself as a genuine SUV, even though it's still a car-based unibody crossover. Nevertheless, we're impressed by its boxy, Land Rover-like styling, which transformed this midsizer from something practical into a choice of drivers with a specific lifestyle. The same vibes can be felt on the inside, with the elegant design and generous offer of standard equipment. But the biggest benefit of the new boxy design is the additional space. The Santa Fe now offers 3 rows of seats and a generous cargo area with a large opening that is ready to accommodate bulky items with ease. Under the hood, you get a choice between Turbo 4 and hybrid options, and both offer quite a satisfying driving experience. As for the price, the base models are expected to go around $33,000. Despite its getting close to the end of the production cycle, the current generation of the world's best-selling crossover SUV is still respectable in many ways. We could say that the cabin doesn't feel as upscale as in the case of some younger rivals, but it is practical, well-equipped, and pretty generous with space. Styling-wise, the current generation seems to be aging pretty well. But we all know what's the biggest strength of this SUV. The well-known 5th generation of Toyota's hybrid system offers a fantastic blend of performance, efficiency, and reliability. With nearly 220 horsepower, the RAV4 has enough power to satisfy most drivers, while the average fuel economy of 41 miles per gallon city and 38 miles per gallon highway is still good enough for one of the leading positions in the segment. For those looking for something peppier, the RAV4 is also available with a plug-in hybrid setup with 302 horsepower and the ability to hit 60 in 5.5 seconds and go up to 42 miles solely on electric power. Still, it's good to know that such a RAV4 is quite expensive, with a manufactured suggested retail price of nearly $45,000. The standard hybrid, on the other hand, starts at around $33,000. Mazda has made a huge step forward in every aspect in the last decade or so. First, there were things like engaging handling and high-quality interior, but the most recent models go way beyond that, and the CX-90 is a perfect example. Although it starts at around $40,000, like most mainstream midsize SUVs, it's much closer to the premium than the economy segment. In so many ways, it's much closer to a BMW than a Toyota, starting from the base layout, which now includes a longitudinally mounted inline-six engine and a rear-wheel drive platform. This Mazda is a real joy to drive, with sharp handling and driving dynamics that are great whether you pick up the gas-only inline-six engine or a plug-in hybrid setup. But the CX-90 is also a practical SUV with 3 rows of seats and a large cargo hold. This is the most luxurious Mazda we've ever seen, and we really can't find any major thing to complain about. A few years ago, Hyundai impressed the whole automotive community with the latest iteration of the popular compact crossover. That redesign brought the most upscale design we've ever seen in a Tucson, but more importantly, it brought a complete package, a model that really doesn't have any major drawbacks. Moreover, it stands out in many ways, starting from a pretty unique styling and being one of the most luxurious cabins in the segment. Furthermore, there's a choice between gas-only and hybrid powertrains, both strong in their own ways. And now, the Korean carmaker is preparing a mid-cycle refresh with notable styling changes and, more importantly, new interior design with a revised dashboard design with a new massive panel that integrates an instrument cluster and infotainment screen as one of the biggest highlights. That version is expected to arrive by the end of the year, but even if you're not willing to wait that long, the current model is really an excellent choice, especially if we consider everything you get for a little bit over $28,000. For just a little bit over $30,000, you can get a car that's pretty much the epitome of a crossover design. Essentially a station wagon, the Outback adds typical crossover features such as a more rugged appearance and increased ground clearance. And that design approach that takes the best of both worlds is what has made the Outback a legend that many tried to replicate but never succeeded. The current generation Outback stands out in many ways. It's as practical as it's always been, but also looks very rugged, especially in the off-road-oriented wilderness trim. Of course, quintessential Subaru features are there, starting from the legendary symmetrical all-wheel drive system and boxer engines. Base models use a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated flat 4 with 182 horsepower, which we highly recommend the optional 2.4-liter turbo flat 4 with 260 horsepower and pretty impressive driving dynamics. Years after its launch, the Telluride still impresses us with its amazing value. This 3-row crossover SUV has so many great things to offer that we don't even know where to start. maybe with the cabin design, which looks very luxurious and where higher trim levels could easily be mistaken for some premium badged counterpart. The cabin isn't just luxurious, but also cavernous. This is one of the rare mid-size crossovers with a third row that can actually accommodate adults comfortably. Of course, the first and second rows are much more than that and offer all the comfort you would expect of a vehicle of this size. Under the hood, the Telluride features a 3.8-liter V6 with over 290 horsepower. Driving dynamics are good, and even though this old-school engine probably isn't as efficient as Turbo 4 rivals, we prefer it because of its smoothness, which creates a perfect synergy in a combination with soft and comfort-oriented suspension setup. And despite all the amazing features, the Telluride still retains a genuine mainstream price that starts a little bit over $37,000. When you look at single parameters and aspects of a crossover design, the CR-V probably isn't a class leader in any of them. But as a whole package, the CR-V is second to none. In our humble opinion, this crossover has no weak spot because, after the recent redesign, even those concerned about its aesthetics don't have anything to complain about because the current model looks very elegant. But the styling has never been the CR-V's strongest point. As mentioned, the all-around design is what makes this SUV popular. That includes a well-balanced chassis that ensures both a comfortable and engaging ride, excellent build quality, spacious and practical interior, and a couple of refined powertrain options. Depending on the preference, buyers can choose between the standard Turbo 4 and a pretty efficient hybrid powertrain. With a starting price of nearly $31,000, it definitely is more expensive than direct rivals, but believe us, it's worth every cent. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.